Good evening, welcome to the tropical update on what is now Tropical Storm Elsa here, racing to the west-northwest in the central Caribbean and approaching the island of Barbados. You can see the storm clearly here outlined on visible and now shortwave imagery due to the sun setting, and you can see Barbados and the Leeward Islands in the sights of this system. And as you can see, the storm has developed a much more compact look to it this evening. You can see that there is a much more circular area of convection and thunderstorms here, and some indication that maybe some banding is trying to develop here. You can see that here as these are thunderstorms that are going into the system. And if we get a closer look at this, you can see that these are hot towers that are kind of rotating around the lower level circulation, trying to rotate up shear here, because if we look at some of the cloud tops off to the west, we're going to go back here, and you can see these thunderstorms that fire along this drier band here, and you can see that the shear vector right now is generally out of the west. This is not very fast shear, this is not very powerful shear, this is pretty low level, mid-level shear. This is probably about 10 to 15 knots of mid-level shear out of the west, and this was actually out of the north this morning and has since rotated to out of the west so this convection has been able to rotate upward and is now working its way around the lower level circulation and is beginning to try to develop a core here. This is very atypical, once again, for a storm that is moving at this forward speed. This is moving at 28 miles per hour, which is very, very fast even for a storm in this time of year. And so the structure that is trying to develop here is actually quite remarkable for a storm that is moving this fast. So given this trend, we could probably see an upward tick in the intensity forecasting for this storm. As of right now, the National Hurricane Center expects a peak of 60 miles per hour, and it looks to be well on its way to that already. But we shall see, and as always, you refer to the National Hurricane Center and the National Weather Service before you refer to anyone on YouTube or any unofficial forecast here. These are always just a collection of our thoughts and opinions. That goes for cyclonic weather, Levi Cowan, direct weather, etc. So, where is this going to end up? We already have our forecast cone here. This is moving very, very, very fast. Here is where it is in 2 days, just to the south of Haiti and the Dominican Republic here, somewhere on Saturday. And so, how is this going to combat the speed shear? Well, we're kind of getting a hint at that right now. It's doing a very good job of combating that speed shear right now, if we are to note that this speed shear has already been affecting it, because remember we talked about yesterday how the upper level flow is slower than the very fast lower level flow here. You can see the lower level flow is pushing this and is moving this very quickly off to the west, and the upper level flow is moving this a little slower off to the west, so the vortex is going to be tilted here. We talked about this yesterday. And how has the vortex responded to the early goings of this speed shear? Well, it's beginning to try to rotate convection up shear right now, and so this is indicative of a storm that's pretty persistent, and I don't think it will be, personally I do not think it will be shut down very easily by shear like this, and so it will likely continue to strengthen in the face of this shear, and I think the National Hurricane Center seems to agree with that for the most part, as it's currently sitting at 45 miles per hour, and the National Hurricane Center does strengthen it as it comes through the Leeward Islands over the next couple of days here. It just levels it out. They level it off because of too much uncertainty regarding where exactly it will be and what exactly will become of it after it moves through the Eastern Caribbean, because the background state of the Eastern Caribbean is so unfavorable. If we go back, I gave you a little bit of spoilers here for the GFS run. If we go back to 24 hours, you can see here the upper level ridge that has been centered over the system for the past, or centered just to the north of the system for the past few days, is going to continue to move with this system here. And so, hold on, can we check something real quick? I am recording. How about that? Okay. It's going to continue to move with this system here. And if we go a little further, you can see that the upper level ridge actually is more in line with the system. The easterly flow is still evident over the system, and the lower level flow is still pretty in line with this easterly flow aloft, and that speed shear is still definitely present. And the GFS, as you can see, kind of keeps it around 990 millibars over this period of time here. And this is where it gets dicey. Right in here, this is a tightrope walk with the Greater Antilles, and due to the angle of approach, a wobble even 10 or 20 miles to the north or south could mean the difference in this entire storm's life, or the storm's entire life, because the environment that this is in is very, very favorable. This is in an upper-level anticyclone with virtually no shear in sight, and quite frankly, the only thing that would inhibit this storm is its forward speed. And we're seeing early on how the storm's forward speed is not doing too much to it. So, with an even better upper level environment, one would expect it to intensify more as long as it doesn't run into any land. And that is why the National Hurricane Center has not been very aggressive on the intensity forecast for the system, and will likely remain rather conservative on the system until we have that fleshed out, because the intensity guidance is much higher than where the National Hurricane Center currently has it pinged at around this time. This is 72 hours. This is where it is interacting with these islands, and this is the tightrope walk right here on Sunday. And this will dance around and be potentially onshore to these islands within the next few days here. This is, again, 4 days. It's right here, and then it's right here a day later. It's moving very quickly, and so you don't really have a whole lot of time here if you're in this region of the Atlantic here. You need to be watching this and go ahead and start preparing, because this could be strengthening. It really depends on what happens within the next couple of days, and really, I mean, this is going to be something that you have to watch very closely, especially if you lived in the Southeast. Anywhere from, I would say, even East Texas all the way to the Mid-Atlantic here. You do need to be watching this, as the forecast track uncertainty has actually increased a little bit, because there's been a split in the GFS ensemble that I can't not show you here because of paywalls. The GFS ensemble has actually even shifted some of its tracks all the way into Louisiana, but the European ensemble has shifted some of its tracks all the way up into the Mid-Atlantic. So, if you're in this region of the country, you do need to be watching this, as you always do. I know it's very, very early in the hurricane season. This is actually the earliest fifth named storm ever. Broke that record that was set last year, and so we're dealing with this. This is not, normal for this time of year. And so if you're in this region of the United States, you do need to be watching this. Always have your hurricane plan ready. And, if you're in the Greater Antilles, obviously be watching this, as this is likely to bring winds and flash flooding and potential for surge. And this is also all hazards are possible as this comes northward. Regardless of what is left of this or what is here, you're likely to be dealing with at least stormy weather and heavy weather in the southeast. Now, where exactly this ends up, we'll figure that out in the next few days. But right now, watch this very closely. Stay tuned to the National Hurricane Center, National Weather Service. And as always, thanks for watching. See you in the next video.